Okay, Dave Harland, a huge welcome to the 10Q interview. I think I mentioned in the email when I reached out to you about how I remember you from the marketing meetup when you had a gladiator helmet on. And I've never seen anyone control the marketing meetup videos quite like you did that day. And I knew from that point I had to have you on my podcast.
Nice one, Chris. Thanks. Yeah, yeah, that was a funny one. The gladiator helmet. I actually thought that was going to fit, and then the webinar, I tried it on and it didn't fit, and I was like, oh shit, I'm just going to have to wing it now.
Yeah.
That kind of made it come to life. Fathead Dave.
I just remember Twitter going wild about Dave Harland and his gladiator helmet. I mean, I'd have to ask Joe. I don't know what the numbers were for that one, but I bet it was high.
Oh man, it was proper daunting. Joe told me beforehand, he was like, yeah, so there's like over 1,000 sign-ups. I think on the day there was like 600 people watching.
Wow.
First time I'd ever done a webinar, so I'm just like, oh.
How was it?
I kind of just embraced it. Once you're a minute into those things, all the nerves tend to go, and all of the kind of the overwhelm that you've got all of these people staring at you, and you're not seeing any of their reactions.
Yeah.
Kind of talk. So any of my little daft jokes and quips and that, I don't know whether or not people are laughing. I can see Joe a little bit kind of chuckling, but yeah, it's a funny one. But I've done quite a few since then, and they all seem to be sound. But yeah, I love that one.
Well,
Yeah,
credit to you, Dave, because I would never have known that was the first one. It was good.
Nice one.
And I just want to also add in your LinkedIn posts are without a doubt, and I reckon I'm speaking for the masses here, why a lot of people stay engaged on LinkedIn. They should be paying you some sort of retainer. I think that they're just class.
Oh, stop it! Yeah, well, other platforms are starting monetizing now, aren't they? So
yeah,
I think it's time LinkedIn. Yeah, but LinkedIn see themselves as a networking site, don't they, rather than social media? So yeah, I don't think they
that's the
ever will.
problem with it, Dave. I think everyone takes themselves a bit too seriously on LinkedIn, and then when you come along and write the stuff you do, I think it lightens the mood quite drastically. It's good.
Yeah, I think self-deprecation is one big thing. Like when I get potential clients coming to me and saying, how can we be fun? And I'm like, okay, question one, are you actually fun? There's no point trying to force fun. But like the second thing I say is just try and have a bit of a laugh at yourself. Don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
If you can kind of poke fun at yourself and be be the butt of the first joke that you tell, I think people tend to warm to you. I know, any teachers that I had in school, if they could take the piss out of themselves before kind of, getting us on their side, it was way easier for them. Like, so, yeah, I always kind of tell that to potential clients.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree. I mean, you bring up school then. I don't know if that's going to segue nicely into question one. It either will or it won't. But I think you're the first person actually I've had on here who is actual like full-time writer as opposed to someone doing it as part of something else. So I guess, how do you get into that? How did you get started?
Yeah, from a very early age, like loved. My dad got me into like Scrabble when I was about 6 or 7 or whatever, and then
Okay.
within like a year, I was just trouncing him. My vocabulary was just like, I was like, used to love reading the dictionary and learning new words, proper little swath. And then it just went on from there. I read, all like your typical, kids' books, Beatrix Potter and Roald Dahl. And Roald Dahl in particular was like, just like the mad character names he comes up with and the weirdness. I was like, wow, that really struck a chord with me, the kind of weirdness and the fantasy side of things. And then the writing just kind of naturally followed from that. I used to write like little stories and poems and things about my family and just random stuff. There's a poem about dogs that was on my nan's toilet wall for like 15 years, which I've dug out. It's on my website now, so I quite like looking at that now and again. It paints me into it. Well, it makes me out to be a little bit of a psycho kid, the way the poem ends. But yeah, I won't spoil it. If anyone wants to go on my website and I'll look at my about page,
share the link with me after, and I'll put it in the show notes if anyone wants to check it out.
Yeah, I will do. So I was writing stuff. I was reading everything, and then I like loved English as well. So went to when I was like 15, I was like, let's go and do some kind of writing from my work experience. And yeah, I got the opportunity to go to my local free paper and do 2 weeks as a journalist there.
Did you?
Which was great. Loved it. Got a byline in the paper, and I was like, I want to do this as my career. So
that was the hook. They got the hook into you there and then, right?
That was it, yeah. Went all in. I mean, obviously, like local papers, working on local papers, is not the best paid job. So there was always like, I was one of the first people, or the first like grandson to go to university, in my family. So it was like high hopes. But then, a journalist on a lowly local paper, like every single one of my cousins were probably earning more than me, even in relatively manual jobs.
Yeah,
So what defo wasn't the best paid, but yeah, I was like, sound. Can I do this as a degree? So that's what I did. Did 3 year degree up in Preston, Central Lancashire Uni, in journalism. So I learned all the fundamentals of kind of writing news articles, headlines, how to structure,
yeah,
features and sport articles and all of that type of stuff. And then yeah, got a job as a football kind of semi writer reporter straight after uni, and he really did that for 6 months, and then I was back at the old uni doing. I was the editor of their journalism department website,
okay,
so they kind of knew, they kind of knew, what I was capable of. Knew that I was looking for work because this stint as a football writer didn't work out, and yeah, I was lucky enough to go and work for them as the editor of their website. But straight away, it wasn't. I wasn't being impartial. It was all kind of PR. I was promoting the university, so even as early as that. And I mean, I'm talking that was 2003, 2004, maybe. So getting on for 20 years, I didn't even know what copywriting was, but I was essentially their copywriter,
right.
writing the stuff to promote the journalism department.
Did you have the same style as you have now?
No, no, that's only really come out in the last kind of 4 or 5 years. Once I've kind of found my natural voice, I think I've always used kind of humour and tried to get as much of my own personality across in my writing. But I've really leaned into it more, especially on LinkedIn
Yeah,
since the lockdown, really. But yeah, back then it was just like I was just writing in the exact style that the university wanted. So they had brand guidelines, and I was adhering to those and using the same kind of tone and lingo that that fitted in with the department and the university. So yeah, and most jobs that I do, even though I get the creative freedom to do whatever I want really within my own market. And when I'm working with clients, they give
yeah,
me
of
brand
course.
guidelines. I've got to stick to them. Otherwise, it's just the Dave Harland show, taking the piss, and it
Well, it's
really, really
interesting
doesn't
though.
work.
You said two things there I want to pick up on. One, you said your natural voice. So it took you, my maths, 15 odd years to find your natural voice. Seems like, I don't know, why do you think that was such a long time?
I suppose it was only when I went freelance in like 2015 that I had to do my own kind of marketing. So
Right.
I'd never really been it'd never been needed to. Oh, oh, there we go. Sorry, it went off a
Headphones
little
are
bit.
playing up.
Yeah, so that it had never been needed for me to kind of hone my own voice. But
Right.
when you're doing your own marketing and when you're effectively selling yourself as a freelancer, I think it's important to get your real, authentic personality across. And that became apparent as soon as I went freelance. I was like, okay, on LinkedIn, everyone's being a little bit kind of safe town. It's just an extension of their CV using the
Yeah.
same professional lingo. If I just speak like me, that's going to make me stand out. So that's what I did. And then I've gradually kind of dialed it up in terms of the using humour and all different types of comedy
Yeah.
on LinkedIn to really kind of stand out as that go-to person who can provide that for your marketing stuff.
Well,
So
that leads me on to the follow up question about what you said about brand guidelines and working with clients who I imagine see your stuff on LinkedIn and think, oh, we like the style of this guy. But then do you find that when you get brought in to do the work they want, they have to rein you back in again? Not for any fault of your own, but just because it's weird. I don't know if that's the case.
yeah, it used to be the case before. I mean, at the moment, if they have found me on LinkedIn, they know what they're going to get. So
Yeah.
I very rarely get people saying, "Can you come and do a white paper on IT solutions?" Because they just know I'm not the right person to do that. They go and get someone who works in IT or a content writer who's used to writing that stuff. But typically at the moment, it'll be our stuff's boring. Can you make us more fun? So
Yeah.
they're already. I don't have to do too much selling in terms of here's why you need to stand out with personality. They're already seeing kind of me do it, and they just want me to be able to kind of translate what I do over to their business and make it work. Sometimes it doesn't. Like it can feel a bit try hard, and it's like trying to force jokes here, or they might start out thinking, oh, we want to be really funny and silly and daft, and even if it does kind of align with the brand personality, when we try and execute it with some headlines, they get cold feet
Yeah,
quite
I
quickly
was
when
going
they
to ask
think,
that
oh,
how many of them sort of push back once you actually put it into
yeah,
practice.
quite a few. I mean, it's the more I am myself, in my own marketing, the fewer and fewer times I really, encounter it where it's, oh, this is like too mad for us. Normally, at the moment anyway, if they're coming to me, they're already bought into it, so it's like
Yeah,
sound like almost anything goes. So I very rarely have to rein stuff in too much. But it still happens. But I mean, it's light years apart from even like 5 years ago when
yeah,
I'd get all of those saying, "Oh, can you do a blog? Can you do this?" And I'd be like wasting conversations with people over like really boring stuff, which I wouldn't really want to be working on. So it's kind of helped filter out those
fair
jobs
enough.
that wouldn't be suited to me. And the clients would be paying over their odds to get me in when they could get somebody who's a sector specialist or more of a content writer rather than getting me in to write the really kind of catchy, persuasive stuff.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So part of this podcast, I don't know how many you may or may not have listened to, but I kind of really want people to have something to take away. Obviously, you're very good at what you do, and I'm curious about how you brainstorm your ideas, how you come up with concepts, ideation, that sort of stuff that people could maybe sort of look at and go, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Or, maybe I can. And that could be across client work. It could be across your amazing social posts on LinkedIn. Obviously, you've got a newsletter as well, which is very similar type of content. But you always seem to have these very eclectic topics. And I'm not even worried about anyone else now. For my bait, I'm really curious how you sort of come up with all this stuff, like your Uncle Dave in Angola and all the all those sort of things.
Yeah. The characters is just one kind of little. I have these little buckets of areas where I can go, which one is kind of educational stuff. So
Right.
I'll just teach someone a new writing skill, but it'll very rarely be you know straight up. It'll always be tongue in cheek or a real hyperbole where I've just taken it into like mad, almost like the way Bob Mortimer does. He goes really surreal and makes up mad character names
Yeah.
just to make my stuff stand out. I'll tend to do that, but there'll always be a kind of serious takeaway, a kind of thread beneath all of the silliness. So
Yeah.
education is one. I do a thing where I wind scammers up. So when scammers get in touch with me on LinkedIn, usually to sell Bitcoin or something, I will take them down just weird little rabbit holes and tell them make up stories on the fly about like why I couldn't possibly invest, or yeah, I'm dead keen on
Do
investing
you know
because
what's
I've just
funny, Dave?
y-
I do
y-
since I've seen you doing that, and I imagine you probably get messages from other people. I do that more and more now. Where it used to be just an instant delete out of my email. If I'm bored or I've got a bit of time spare, I will reply. With some, they're not quite as obviously as skilled as you, but just part of it is just trying to prolong the funniness and like give them a taste of their own medicine.
yeah. Well, I get people like saying like I'll publish them on LinkedIn, the
Yeah,
entire story with a scammer. It could be like 10 slides long or whatever on a PDF. And they tend to do well. They're quite popular, the scammer stories now. So they get a few hundred people liking it, loads of people comment saying, "Oh, I love these. When are you doing a book?" Blah 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 blah. And then amongst all the nice stuff, which is like I love getting the positive feedback. Like gives me a proper buzz. Like
yeah,
it's great knowing that you're making people laugh on when they're just having a boring day at work or something. But there's always like two or three people saying, "I don't know where you find the time to do this stuff." Like I'm well too busy to find the time for that. And I'm like, look, I get work off the back of this. People read this stuff and get in touch and go, "Can you do like funny stuff like this? Maybe not winding scammers up, but can you tell
yeah.
silly stories about like our work day that could capture people's imagination a bit more?" So one on one on the one hand, yeah, it brings kind of client work and it's demonstrating my skills, but it's also good practice as well as a writer. Yeah, having the ability to kind of just think up scenarios and character names, and
Yeah.
just when they're replying, I'm thinking of where I can steer the story into like a funny little avenue. It
Is that how
gives
you
me
see
loads
it?
of
Practice.
it gives me loads of practice. Genuinely, yeah, gives me loads of practice in thinking up stuff on the fly. Like I've done probably over 50 of these now.
Yeah.
I never prepped them beforehand. It's normally they get in touch with me and I just think, right, what's something mad I can reply, bang, I'll send it to them, then they'll reply and I'm like, okay, where can I take this? I'm just thinking of them on the fly and it keeps me on my toes as well. I know
Yeah.
when a brand gets in touch with me and they go, oh, we need a load of ideas, concept ideas. I know I'm not just coming at it stale, like, oh, what am I going to do? I'm going to have to Google stuff and use ChatGPT. None of that, because I'm doing it day in, day out on just the wackiest of stuff. So, yeah, like I said, it keeps me on my toes and it is good practice for the real thing when I do have to, think of scenarios or analogies to make products and services, often abstract, mad, complex services and products,
Yeah.
give them a bit of grounding so that people understand it. I do rely on some of the kind of the techniques that I'll use to come up with scenarios and stories in the scammer stuff. So yeah, back to the buckets. So there's the educational one, there's the confuse the scammers ones. I use comments quite a lot on LinkedIn, so I will comment on
You're
usually
trolling people, aren't you? Like you troll.
big
Who's the one I saw the other
yeah,
day?
big creator posts. So you've got usually the ones with like a few million followers. So the likes of Simon Sinek or Tony Robbins or Gary Vee, or in the past where it started was Oleg Vishnopolsky. And the stuff they share is just vacuous rubbish, really. It's just truisms. The best leaders are the ones who care about their staff. It's like, sound like,
I saw
did
the
you go
one
to
you did the
lead?
other day, but
Did you go to leader school for that?
it was an acronym or something. I can't remember. And it was like shite or something. What was it? I can't remember. It bugged me. Someone had put like an acronym of how they put content out or something, and you were like, "Oh no, you should try this method."
Yeah, it was the guy who he advised looking on big creators' posts and stealing
That's it. Yeah,
all of
yeah,
their
yeah.
ideas, and
That's the one.
he created some. What the acronym didn't even work. It was like you fell down at the first hurdle, mate. So yeah, so I said, and I'm normally either agreeing with them or disagreeing. I try not to, like, trolls normally just they're normally quite vindictive and
Yeah,
quite rude. I tend not to be. I tend to rely on being quite satirical, and I kill them with by being articulate rather than going too hard slamming them. So this guy, yeah, I just said, yeah, I completely agree. I use a similar method called the cop out method, and
that's it.
the
Cop out.
COPOUT was like, copy and paste and stuff shamelessly, and then O was offer it. I can't even remember what they were, but yeah,
It was
all six
funny.
steps were basically like, look, mate, this is a shit way of going about
Yeah,
doing your content. If all you can do is rely on copying.
I do have one question about your commenting on LinkedIn.
Yeah, go on.
Was have you ever for people who don't know your stuff, you sometimes do the photo credit things where you try and get them to credit a funny name. Have you ever had anyone actually do it?
Yeah, there's about six.
Oh, is there?
I've probably done about 100 of them. So for anyone who doesn't know, again, it's usually these people who are in engagement pods. They're just posting like like it could be
We don't add any
um,
value, really, do they?
like a 400-meter race where someone falls at the start, and then they somehow make their determination makes them win. They end up getting up and beating everybody, and then they end up winning the race, and it's all like uplifting. And what the comment, what the post's going to be like, determination and resilience, and it's just crap, not helping anyone really. It's
Mm.
just them. It's just an excuse to post. So usually they'll post videos or images or whatever, and yeah, my way of just commenting, just to try and raise a smile amongst other people who are looking at this stuff like I am, from kind of, with a wry smile on my face, thinking, this is just crap, really. What,
Yeah.
like, why are you posting this rubbish? So yeah, I will always comment, great post. I'll get the name wrong on purpose. So if his name's Sean, I'll say, great post, Shane. Don't know why, just came up with that. It was added a little bit extra funniness.
It's like the
So yeah,
biggest
great post,
insult, isn't
Shane.
it?
yeah, thank you for these learnings about, you know, resilience and, you know, tripping over at the start of races. Could you also please credit the videographer? I believe his name was, you know,
She fell over.
Henry Plugsocket,
That's the
or
one.
Sheila fell over.
That's it.
So I've been doing these for a few years, and yeah, there's been about 5 or 6, I think,
I have
maybe more, who've actually gone and credited the people. So yeah, I see that as it's almost like, yeah, it's like the victory when it finally works. And of course I screen grab them, and then I'll tend to stick them on. I won't make fun of them on LinkedIn. I'll tend to stick, not because I'm a shithouse, but I think more of the people who kind of laugh at that type of stuff are within my circles on Twitter,
yeah.
which Twitter's more me creative mates. LinkedIn is like I'm connected to so many randomers and scammers, and like I welcome them all. I want to see all of their terrible stuff just so I can have a little bit of a pop at it. So yeah, I've posted those things on
I don't know
Twitter.
if I thought maybe
Just
I'll follow you on Twitter after. I don't know if I do or not, but I mean,
so
Twitter's a mess. I miss so much stuff on there. I don't really go on there enough. But
it's not, no one's really on there anymore. Like since Musk took over, it's just gone. Yeah, engagement's down, and
mm.
yeah, hardly anyone's on there. Everyone seems to be turning up on LinkedIn, trying to throw the weight around. It's a funny old place, LinkedIn, at the moment. Yeah.
Do you like? I mean, you obviously enjoy LinkedIn. I'm assuming. Do you enjoy doing it, or is it purely a marketing tool for you?
It will always be. Yeah, I mean, I do enjoy it because the bulk of the stuff, 99%, or maybe not that much, 95% of the stuff I do is it kind of makes me laugh as I'm doing it. I'm
Yeah.
like, it's usually a piss take. So, um, I'm always like my first audience. If something I'm writing sounds really sad, but like laughing at your own joke, but if something I'm writing makes me laugh,
Yeah.
like it's like job done. So yeah, it was always a means to get clients, and it will always be that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't enjoyable. But there's still always, it's not just me, like I said, messing around on there. There is a strategy. I want to be known as that person who can provide that kind of funny, personality filled copy for people's businesses. And I think the kind of going all in on the funny has kind of helped me to do
Well,
that.
I was going to ask that. How many of your clients or potential clients sort of cite the LinkedIn content as a reason for getting in touch?
Most of them, yeah, most of
Yeah.
them. And I'll go to networking events. Oh, you're that guy off LinkedIn, aren't you? So it's like I weirdly got spotted before Christmas in Belfast. Like I'm from Liverpool. Like you got to get a plane to Belfast.
Yeah.
Some woman came up to me, yeah, in
Oh,
the
she
in a bar,
recognised
and went,
you.
she was like, "Are you Dave Harland?" Oh, my mates were like taking the piss here. I thought they put it up to it, but yeah, she recognised me just because. I mean, if I'm posting once a day,
Yeah.
the law of averages means that someone's going to see this massive face and in a crowd and go,
Yeah.
"Oh, I kind of recognise him." So that's what happened there.
That's funny.
But yeah, client wise, yeah, most of them, to be honest, now, yeah, they say, "Oh, yeah, love the funny stuff on the LinkedIn. Can you do that for us?" And likewise, it puts it's back to what I said before about being a filter. It puts loads of businesses off as well, which I don't mind.
Yeah.
I'm not here to work with everyone. There's only one of me to go around, so I'm quite happy filtering out the people who just wouldn't entertain that type of stuff anyway.
Yeah. Fair enough. Um, I kind of it's funny talking to you because the questions sort of don't know if they make quite as much sense, but for those people out there who want to get better at writing, do you have any specific systems and processes or things in place that can help people? Tools you use, apps you use, or is it a case of you just sit down with Google Doc and just chuck it out a bit?
Yeah, most of the time, there's no. As I said before, I did journalism at uni back in like 2000, so
Mm,
social media wasn't really a thing. I was recording interviews on like a proper old tape recorder, mobile
yeah,
phone, looked like house bricks. So certainly before I was learning those kind of fundamentals before the age of all apps and stuff, and prompt chat GPT prompts and all of that shit. Kind of learned the old school way, so they've always kind of been my old reliable ways of doing things, the old school technique. So at the start of every job, I'll split the box into four,
Yeah.
and whatever I'm working on, I'll write like all the rhymes to do with whatever I'm working on, all the synonyms, so like all the associated words, any experiences that I've had with that product or service, and any idioms that to do with it, and that just gives me a big bank of kind of associated words and phrases to play around with. So
Oh, that's
just
interesting. Is that
little.
is that a is that a writing technique? Is that like has that got a name of something?
No, I give it a name. Like like the four initials: rhymes, synonyms, idioms, and experiences. It kind of spells rise, but right, it's a bit boring, isn't it? So in a
Yeah.
newsletter one week, I called it ESIR. Sounds like a mystical Middle Eastern amulet or something. So, and I quite like the sound of that. So yeah, I call it the ESIR method.
Okay.
Sounds like something out of Indiana Jones, doesn't it? But yeah, that's just what I mean. No doubt, there's other writers out there who do similar things. I just, you give something a name, you can own
Yeah.
it, can't you? So, yeah, that's just, and ever since I started, copywriting, really, that was always my luck. I need a load of words to start off with. Nothing worse than a blank page. Every writer will tell you.
Mm.
So that just gets me off and running. And now and again, it'll just sit there and so there's some of the stuff that I write down there because it's just my first thoughts. I'll kind of just dismiss them later on in a project. Occasionally, something will spring out of that page and
Yeah.
become like the little nugget that will become the line, the campaign line, the brand tagline. Who
Okay.
knows? So yeah, I still do it to this day, and that's manual. I do that with pen and paper. Well, I've got one of these remarkable tablet thing, but still manually do that. Don't use the laptop to do that or anything like that. So still keep things quite old school. And I don't use any apps really. There's all of these AI tools which
Well,
I think for non-copyright.
we'll talk about AI in a minute because I know that is a
Yeah,
big topic in the writing world. That remarkable thing. That's like the iPad thing with the you write on, right?
yeah. So it's
What's that
just
like?
it's sound. It's just like writing on paper. And
Okay.
it connects to your Google Drive or whatever your cloud is, but it's got no internet on there. It's got no distractions on there.
Okay.
So if I'm just sitting in this room now, I'll just like, okay, my laptop's in the other office. I can just be. It's just like I'm having a notepad there and pen. So it's my little doing my bit for the environment, but it keeps everything in a nice, neat little place, and it's good
Yeah.
as well if I want to occasionally, if I'm working on something, I'll do like a little bit of a spider diagram with a load of associated words from it. I can like drop that into a presentation deck that I'm doing with the client and say, yeah, this is where it started. There's with the idea, and it's almost like one of those in like a detective's office where you
Yeah.
draw in
Like a
the
mind
string
map
to
or
all,
something.
yeah, that
Yeah.
type of stuff. So you can kind of explain a little bit more about where the idea came from and why it's going to work because of this and this and I think it just gives sometimes, not all the time, it just gives a little bit more credence to where an idea came from,
Yeah.
and just lets the clients know that there's a little bit of a method behind the stuff that you're coming up with. But yeah, that's the only tool really.
Okay. On that note, then, so my next question is about analysis and performance and whatever. Do you look at when you're putting out content on your writing? Do you look at do you analyze how it's worked or what's happened? Because I guess it's a little bit
Um,
different from other forms of content creation, or maybe it's not. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. Do you mean in my own stuff or in client stuff?
Both, man. Both. Whatever.
Yeah, the clients. I'll normally get the client to feedback on how stuff's worked or not. I'll tend to just do the creative stuff and the writing. So any tracking or anything like that, that they'll either do that with their in-house team or like use a third party. But I'll always ask to see like how's it performed if we're doing a split test. What won there, and we'll do more of what works for them. In my own stuff. Not really. I mean, obviously, I monitor, how the engagement of certain posts and certain styles, and
Mm,
yeah, it's just as simple. Do more of what works, and sometimes I'll try stuff, and the engagement will be crap, and it's obviously not landing with people. So that gives me an instant feedback that that type of stuff isn't working. Ultimately, like if people are getting in touch with me after I've done something and it's driving new clients, that's really all that matters.
yeah.
Getting engagement is good because it leads to more followers, which means further down the line, more followers you have. the wider your reach. So when they like your stuff, their second and third connections, or your second and third connections, kind of see your stuff. So it all helps, but yeah, the only one that really matters is when people get in touch. I mean, usually they'll say, "Oh, I read that post or I saw that," and I can kind of attest it to some stuff I've done. But that's it really, just the stuff on LinkedIn Social. I don't really have any sophisticated like tracking and to gauge how well anything else is done.
How are you measuring engagement then? Just likes and comments? Is there, have you any further than that?
No, just likes, comments, and shares. Like I said, because my background's journalism, the
Mm.
marketing side of it is just like proper hazy. So while I'm sound and dead confident with the creative stuff, the actual marketing stuff, like I'm desperate to do Mark Ritten's course, mini MBA in
How are
marketing,
you?
which will I haven't done that. I don't know. I feel like a little bit of an imposter in marketing, almost like. I can't in copywriting, sound and storytelling, any of that. I walk the walk, no sweat. But in marketing, as soon as people talk about like marketing, market attribution and segmentation and brand salience, I'm a bit like, I can't get my head around it. So I think it'd be good. It'd be good just to understand the fundamentals, is what I mean, rather than
Yeah.
feeling like I'm fudging it. And one of the reasons that I do perhaps not track stuff as well as I would if I was a traditional marketer.
Mm.
It's just because that wasn't my route into what I'm doing today.
Do you use what's that app called? Shield? Is it Shield? Do you use that?
I did the free trial. It's like all of them. It's like sound knowing that, but am I really going to analyze every single post and
Yeah.
do? It's like I don't need that level of, what do they call it? I always get it wrong. Granularity. Such an American word, isn't it? Sounds much better coming out of someone from California's mouth
Yeah.
than from Liverpool. Granularity. But I just don't need that level of stuff with what I do. I'm just a one man band. It's just me. If I had a big business, or I'm opening an agency soon, so once the agency's up and running, we'll no doubt have a few little tools running which go, okay, that blog post's working.
Yeah.
When we get a podcast, this has got so many downloads. I'm sure you. What type of tools do you use to monitor kind of how well each podcast episode does?
I mean, well, so there's the built-in tools on my host, Captivate, and
Yeah,
then there's a one called Chartable. But actually, do you know what? I find it's really inaccurate. I mean, I don't
is it?
know if there's any other podcasters listening, but there'll be times when I'll look at my downloads on my host and they're totally unaligned with what's on. I mean, that's probably because I set it up wrong, more likely than anything. But
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I've worked in marketing a long time, and there's loads of ways for analysing all sorts of things. Podcasting still seems to be
yeah.
so grey. Like it's just everything's vague and everything's. There's so many different so many different platforms and so many different ways of looking at things. I think it's just no one's really managed to really put a
And
pin in it,
there's no
do it properly.
uniformity to it either, is there?
No,
Like
that's the word I was looking for.
the TikTok kind of views seem to
Mm,
be like astronomical compared with like LinkedIn. When you hear like, oh, you did this post, it went viral, I got 4 million views. It's like on LinkedIn, you're doing all right if you get like 50, because
yeah.
most of the stuff people are putting out is just like horrendous. So yeah, there's no kind of parity
Are you trying? Are you trying
between.
TikTok as well?
No, I created an account, and I did start doing some little funny like sketches almost, where
Yeah,
I pretend to pitch a product or a service, but it's like the worst product or service. It's like in really poor taste, and the person at the other end usually tells me to f off. But they're the only kind of little ideas that I've had. I've got loads more ideas for that type of stuff, and I think eventually, once I've got a bit more time, once I start dialing down the kind of client work and the necessity for me to be in the chair all day writing and coming up with ideas, I'm definitely going to be doing more video stuff, because I think that's probably where you can get your personality across,
yeah.
like, well, or a little bit better than you kind of write. Obviously you're right, and you've got to kind of presume that people are reading the stuff from start to finish. And if you've buried a little joke punchline and people aren't reading it, it's like, oh, whereas on video you can kind of get that personality across straight away. You look at Rob Mayhew, who does the agency
Yeah, he's good, isn't he?
sketch piss takes. He's just like, he's like a mainstream comedian, just bossing it on LinkedIn.
Mm.
Like, you can clearly see why he's getting snapped up to do collaborations with all the big companies at the moment, like because he just gets that personality across straight away. So yeah, definitely on the horizon to do more of the video stuff. But again, I'm a writer. It's like it doesn't come natural.
No.
I'm just winging it really with the video stuff. Whereas Rob Mayhew's an actual stand-up comedian. So
Oh, is it
yeah,
okay?
there's a bit to go in terms of that for me.
Have you ever tried stand up?
No, I've never had any kind of training, although like always obsessed with all types of comedy growing up from
Yeah.
the early days of the Fast Show and Harry Enfield back when I was like 8 or 9, right the way to more modern stuff like Ricky Gervais, The Office, Bob Morton, I mentioned before, Peter Kay, observational stuff, load of American comedians who are hilarious as well.
I think
Um,
Phoenix Nights is one of the best programs that has ever been
well,
made on TV.
Phoenix Nights, it just hones in on the kind of the hilarity of normality and just
Yeah,
like zooming in on the kind of the stuff that goes on in every little mad village around the country.
yeah,
But like and the characters just make it, don't they? Every
yes,
single character kind of they could have their own spin off. There's
they
no dead
could.
wood in
Yeah.
that whatsoever. Yeah, amazing.
The reason I asked about the stand up comedy, I'm trying to think who it was. Someone was telling me that they were trying to do more video, and
Mm.
they didn't feel very natural in front of camera, and they wanted to do a bit more public speaking. And someone had suggested to them that they go and try one of these uh, like a comedy school. And there's like loads of classes that you can do for stand up comedy, and it was basically trying to train them to do stand up comedy on stage, and then they at the end of the course they had to perform. And I'm trying to remember, it's racking my brain. It was a previous guest, I think. They were saying it revolutionised how they approached everything from board meetings to client meetings to video stuff, TikTok stuff, all that sort of thing. And it's just, you've obviously got the idea side of it, definitely. But if you, I wondered if you'd ever thought about trying to go that next stage.
Been not so much to be not so much to be a comedian. No, I think I feel comfortable doing what I'm doing.
Mm,
I mean, obviously never say never, but I think the approach the I'd say the approach that kind of stand ups take, I try and mirror that whenever I present stuff. Which again, I mentioned about the market meetup. The first time I'd ever done a webinar, it's only in the last year that I've been doing, getting more into the in-person stuff, like even like public speaking and stuff. I'm a writer, never really felt comfortable in my own skin speaking. Like, hate the sound of my own voice when I listen back to it. It sounds a bit,
yeah.
um, oh, my mic's gone off again. Sounds a little bit high and squeaky, and I'm like, don't know whether that's just a Liverpool thing. Hey, mate.
No, it
But
always
yeah,
sounds. It always, whatever little flaws you think you have, they always amplified when you listen to stand out more than anyone
yeah.
else. Anyone else picks up on.
Yeah, and I'd stop because I, relentless on LinkedIn. I was getting asked more and more to do podcasts, which is sound because you're just in a little shed, aren't you?
Yeah.
Most of the time. But like in person stuff, I was getting invited to do keynotes and stuff. And at the start, I was just like, oh, like made my stomach turn. So I thought I've got to do something about this. So I've been going to a thing called Keynote Club, for the
Oh,
past year.
I saw something. Is that's Max Hoppy's thing, isn't it?
Max Hopper, yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I was there with him last night. So he was, he's the co-host of the Manchester Marketing Meetup, and yeah, runs this keynote club, which is just really all about getting your public speaking reps in
Yeah.
and learning how to get over the butterflies, learn techniques. Even if you're not really nervous with it, it's all about like just getting clarity and telling stories and building kind of personality and building rapport with the audience. So no matter where you are with public speaking, which me at the very start, I said that to Max last night. Like I did the talk in front of like 70 people. I said a year ago I'd have been thinking about that talk for about 3 months
Yeah.
with constant dread. Whereas last night it was just a Tuesday night for me, like a few little butterflies beforehand, but I knew me stuff. Read me stuff out the slides and kind of nailed it. But and Keynote Club is ace for that. I highly recommend. It's every every other Thursday, just an hour on your lunch. So if you're working at a company, you can fit it into to your life. And yeah, you just learn. You just learn so much. You learn to come out your shell a little bit more if you feel quite introverted. Which I was never introverted, never really shy. It was just used to get those kind of God, even the thought of being on stage was just enough. I think it's more the thought of going blank on stage and looking
Yeah.
like a dick, or being asked a question and not having an answer, and not having the balls to go, you know what, I haven't got an answer for that, sorry, and moving on, which is exactly what I'd do now. If somebody asked me, I'd go, oh, I don't know, that's not my area of expertise, I'm
Yeah.
not going to make something up on the spot. So I think it just kind of prepares you for that. But yeah, back to what I was saying about the kind of stand-up side of things. Like whenever I've seen any talks or whenever I've even back to school, I always loved the teachers who made learning fun. So I thought whenever I'm doing any talks or whatever, I'm gonna try and like make it as fun as possible. So
Yeah.
I kind of try and mirror most like stand-ups as they're doing the talks. So as I'm running through me slides, it'll be littered with jokes. There'll usually be like a big punchline at the end, which links to something I mentioned at the very start. So
Yeah.
there's lowered, and there'll be characters within it, and there'll be all different kind of humor devices such as irony and sarcasm and all of that type of stuff. A little bit of parody if I'm taking the piss out of something. So I'm probably already kind of a bit like the copywriting. I didn't know I was a copywriter.
Yeah.
I'm probably sounds a bit mad, but I'm probably already a mini stand-up comedian when I'm doing these talks. A few people last night said, "Oh, yeah, it was like watching a comedian like deliver it." So that's kind of the vibe I'm going for. I don't class myself as a comedian, but I tell jokes all day on LinkedIn. So I think one day I'm maybe just going to have to go. Yeah, maybe I am. Who knows?
I want to ask you something about something that you just said. Has really triggered something in my head, and it's a term I suspect you might not like, the personal brand term. It seems to me, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me like you are doing the absolute stand-up job of building your personal brand, right? Your audience is growing on LinkedIn. You said that you were getting invites in to do keynotes and to do speeches, clients coming in. You, Dave, are probably a textbook LinkedIn personal brand builder. But there's a little bit of me that suspects, and you could be totally prove me wrong, that you're not focusing on that side of things. As in, it's not an active decision to do that.
No, no. It's all
No.
just be. I'm not a marketer, so I don't think like a marketer. I think like a writer. I think like a creative writer.
And that is why I suspect you're doing so well, because you are doing what all the textbooks probably say one should do, but you're not thinking about it with that contrived kind of, oh, if I do this, and then if I do that, then this. It's just natural. And therefore, that seems to be working better than, I don't know, most people who are trying to build a personal brand.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and I think the danger when personal branding. Okay, it's a massive thing now. It's basically just being yourself, isn't it?
Well,
Personal
yeah.
branding is just being yourself and being kind of relatable to the types of people that you want to do business with. That's what it boils down to, really. So
Mm.
I think if you I think the moment you kind of following a formula to build your personal brand, it kind of goes against it, doesn't it? Because
Mm.
your personal brand should be authentic, it should be
It's
the
not
real
natural,
you.
is it?
But if you're following this kind of okay, step one, I've got to do this, step two, and we all do it. I write that, 10 steps articles all the time. Most of them are taking the piss, okay, but yeah, personal branding ones, and you can't have a go at anyone because a lot of these CEOs or company founders and entrepreneurs who've probably never had to think about it, never had to think about
Mm.
how they're going to be perceived on LinkedIn for the next 10 years. So, like someone coming to them saying, "I can help you, sort your reputation out, make you seem more professional, give you more of a personality, so and help you, seem really approachable." There's it's no surprise that it's a kind of booming business, but
But it is a
yeah, from
surprise that you're not focusing on it yet, having the results that many who are trying to do it would love.
yeah, I know what you mean. I think it does just boil down to that consciousness. It's like
Yeah,
I'm doing it just subconsciously. It's just like I'm doing more of what works. I'm always just me, really. Again, after the talk last night, the mate like gave me a proper buzz. Afterwards, one of the guys, Kai, he was like, "Oh, when you were speaking your stuff, you sounded exactly like I imagine your voice on LinkedIn." And I was like, "Oh, that's a nice." Because I
perfect.
try and do that. I try and like I drop in like Scouse dialect on there. You know, I'll say "aya" or "that sound" or "nice one," or I'll call people a knobhead,
Yeah.
because that's just how I'll talk in real life. That's a kind. Even though I mentioned like I do it subconsciously, that's a conscious decision to allow that lingo
Mm.
to kind of run free on there. And I get pulled up all the time about, I'll swear loads in my Friday email, and I'll get people saying that's unprofessional, that's this and that, and I'm like, sound. Like, not for you. You're getting this for free. See you later. You
Yeah.
don't have to do business with me. Unsubscribe. You don't have to subscribe to anything that I do. But for the ones who go, oh yeah, you know what, he seems all right. He seems easy to work with. For me, that's all like they're the type of people I
Do you
want to
know
work
what,
with.
mate?
I
In
if I'm set,
business, just work having someone you can work with
ah,
is the key,
it's
right?
like it's invaluable. Like
Yeah.
especially if like you've grown up with that, like in my family, it's just like the most kind of down to earth working class. Everyone takes the piss out of one another. If that's all you've ever known growing up, it's like you can see straight away when someone's trying to pull the wool over your eyes or use words that aren't
Yeah.
natural. You're like, who are you trying to impress, mate? It's like, just give it to me straight, and that's how I kind of, that's how I try and kind of project myself as well. Just as I am as you see me, like me or lump me, which again, it's not for everyone. These CEOs, heads of big business, they've got loads of responsibilities. I'm just a
Yeah.
one man band. I can get away with it. I get a free pass. Like I mentioned that last week, I get a free pass when I'm swearing and stuff. I haven't got anyone else's livelihood to worry about if I tarnish my company's reputation. Whereas if a
Yeah.
CEO came out and started effing and blinding, they might go, "Oh bloody hell!"
Well, we'll
He
talk
should be
about that
setting
in
an
a minute,
example and
Dave,
stuff.
because that might change soon, and then I'd be interested to see how the content changes.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see. Yeah, who knows? Yeah, Dave, PG Dave.
Corporate Dave.
Don't know how that would work.
Um, you kind of covered it. My next question is about standing out, and you've talked a lot about your natural voice, being yourself, being funny. Obviously, what you're just saying about the words you use and the lingo you use, and I won't labour on this question because I feel like you've given out a load of things already that probably answer it. But is there anything when you saw the question? Was there anything you thought, oh, that I want to mention?
I think the best way to stand out by a mile is just do what people aren't expecting. People see the same old marketing crap day in day out.
Yeah,
On Black Friday, every other subject line is Black Friday offers, Black Friday deals, Black Friday this, Black Friday that. It's like, oh, it's just pure noise. It's like
yeah,
the scene in Poltergeist where the screen's just like all snowy. It's just like there's nothing coming through, nothing jumping out. So if you can just find, oh, sorry, Mike went off again a little bit there. It's
that's
doing that
cool.
intermittently. So if you can just find a way to just use a phrase or even just like particular few words that when you type it into Google, it's coming up with one search result or zero search results. You're just saying something slightly against the grain that no one's really read before, or just gets them thinking differently.
Yeah,
I think that's how you're gonna grab attention. Obviously, you've got to follow it up with something meaningful in your the body copy or whatever messaging you're gonna do. But I think because there's some mad statistic like we see 10,000 different messages a day,
yeah,
whether that's on your phone, on the sides of buses,
yeah,
coming through Spotify adverts, whatnot, and there's only like probably 0.0001% that even gets noticed, let alone remembered, and certainly not acted on. So it's like bit of a cliche, but the attention economy is like it's never been more important to grab people's attention now. And people could say, "Oh yeah, isn't that just clickbait?" It's like not again, not if you follow it up with stuff that
yeah. That's the key, isn't it?
really kind of backs up your claims or isn't just sensationalist stuff you might see on BuzzFeed or somewhere, or I see them now. Like I'm a Liverpool fan. I follow all like the football social media accounts, and it'll be
Yeah.
like, you'll never believe what this striker said to his wife the day he signed for Bayern, and you're like, who is it? And you've got to click this, and it's like
Oh, that's horrible, isn't it?
about 7 minutes in before it says like, oh, it was such and such 2 years ago, and it's like an old story, and you're like, oh, you've just hooked me in there. See you
Yeah.
later. I'm deleting you off
Leaves
my
leaves a
phone.
sour taste in your mouth, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah. So
Yeah.
if you can just find a way, if you find a way to do it classy in a non-clickbaity way, and a lot of the time it's just thinking about how you can kind of say stuff in different ways. I'm
Yeah.
working on a job at the moment for a property brand, and we're doing like a messaging matrix where we're looking at what all the other property brands do, and we're just trying to say everything that all the others say differently. Just say it in a different way, just to help them
Yeah.
stand out, and that's all you need to do. Sometimes, just say something differently, and by its very nature, it will jump out because it's what people aren't used to seeing. Like the Black Friday ones, there's a brand called Spoke who do like men's trousers, and
Yeah.
they've obviously got a boss copywriter working for them. On Black Friday, their subject line was Black Thigh Day because it's all about getting these lovely trousers onto your thighs, and I was just like, that's nice. That so
Yeah.
obviously I had a little thought about that. Jumped out of my inbox, I read the email. I didn't buy any kicks; they're all quite tight, and I'm a bit of a unit, so I just subscribe because of their copy. It's lovely.
Well, that's it. It's weird actually. Me and my wife very rarely watch live TV these days. And there was something we were watching, wanted to watch. It was on ITV, and it escapes me what it is now. But when you go on ITVX on the telly, they still bombard you with the adverts, and you think, oh shit.
Yeah,
But it was the first time I'd watched TV ads in, I don't know, mate, probably 3 years, 4 years, I don't know. And I couldn't believe how dross they were and how just not standing out. Essentially, I was just like, oh my god, there's nothing. And there was a Sky one which I really liked. It was called The Greatest Show on Earth, Sky Sports, and it was genuinely a good advert, and that stood out. And it made me wonder, is like how many of these marketing teams and departments actually have standing out as like a kind of a key thing on their marketing briefs, because oh man, it's so dross. It really was. But that's a
yeah.
copywriting thing ultimately, right?
Um,
Or at least
yeah,
maybe not copywriting, but like
yeah. It can be.
scripting maybe, or
Yeah, who knows? Like I've worked on stuff where I've come up with some stuff that I think, oh, that's ace that, and then it's, oh, we can't say this because, and then legal get involved. Oh, we can't
oh
say
yeah, I've
this.
been there.
Oh, hang on a sec. This is that. Oh, are we back on? Can you hear
Can you
me?
hear me?
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It died, but then I'm back on. Weird. Um, I think it's just reverted from Bluetooth to normal
Oh right,
headset,
okay.
but you might have to do a little bit of editing at the
That's
end,
fine,
mate.
mate.
Sorry
Don't
about
worry,
that.
don't worry.
What was you saying then? Oh yeah, whose fault it is? So I think yeah, like sometimes it's hard to know who's to blame.
Yeah.
It's usually a compendium of errors. Is that the thing? Is that the phrase?
I
No, a
don't know, but
catalogue of errors.
legal get involved, brand
Oh mate, yeah.
guidelines get involved.
Honestly,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, you can't say that, you can't do that. Oh, we can't say that, and then like whoever's the brand manager might be having a shit day. Like they don't want to be as creative or something. And oh no, we can't say that. And it's like, before you know it, it's just been
Watered
watered
down.
down and
Yeah.
down, and there's no finger pointing. It's just like, can't do that, can't do that. So I suppose campaigns like that, they live and die on how good the brief is,
Yeah.
and how kind of yeah, how not flexible, but how good the kind of
Adventurous.
brand, how much leeway the brand guidelines allow you to
Mm.
kind of push them as far as you can creatively. And I think sometimes it's easy to get bogged down in the nitty gritty and go, oh, we sound like this, we don't sound like that.
Yeah.
And it's like there's an element of blending and flexibility to brand guidelines. They don't always have to sound, exactly, you know, as every other ad that you've done
Yeah.
has been. And I think it's easy for brands to kind of go down that, back to the formulas, that really formulaic route, and stuff can end up sounding really kind of safe. And there's a study done. I think Kantar, like the big agency, did a study in humour in advertising. Like humour is one way to get your stuff noticed, make people laugh. It lands well. They remember
Yeah.
it. It's like job done. It ticks so many boxes. And humour itself, since like the late 90s, it's just gone down. Humour in advertising just taking a dip. There's no better opportunity to stand out with a little bit of humour than it is now.
Everyone's
Albeit
it's
this,
fear thing though, right?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, and as the brands get bigger, there's more channels than ever. So it's like you've got to fit your campaign around. It's got to land well on TikTok. It's got to be good on radio. It's got to be good in 100 different places. So,
Mm.
and occasionally it's like you come up with an idea and it just won't translate across everything. It might look ace on a billboard, but you use that as whatever your headline is on a billboard as the tagline of a radio, and it could just sound shit. And it's no one's fault. It's just like let's just focus on getting the kind of creative idea spot on first, and then adapt it to wherever we think it might be able to work. But again, I'm a freelancer. I get drafted in now and again to work with agencies, so I only really see I'm only on the periphery really when
Yeah.
I'm doing, and I do the creative stuff. I don't see half the stuff that goes on, like the politics about how, an idea does really get kind of watered down. Now and again, when I work with businesses, I can see, different people chipping away at it,
Yeah.
and then we
Yeah.
get to the end, and I'm like, well, it doesn't really look like the idea it started off with. So, yeah, it's like I'm not putting my name to it. All I've done, like, I've written a website for a client, and they've just like, oh yeah, change all the don'ts and the I'ms to do not and I am, and I'm like, you want to be conversational, and you've
Yeah.
got some knob higher up saying, oh, we don't like contractions. It's like, come on, but again, it's back to the strength of your brief, strength of your brand guidelines, and but whether or not the people signing the stuff off are going to have the genuine belief in
Yeah.
creative stuff, and a, whether it's going to work, and b, can we kind of test it, and once it goes out as well, keep an eye on it and make sure that it's achieving everything we want to achieve. So much stuff just gets put out there and just gets forgotten by the
Yeah.
audience. You see like brand social ads with like 4 likes, and they're all employees of the brand, and you're talking like big
I know, mate. I
retailers
know.
here with
I've
like
seen it. Yeah.
4 likes on their tweets, and you're like, you've been putting you're obviously paying someone to put tweets out for the past 3 years, the same insipid crap. It's
Mm.
like, at what point will the penny drop? And you go, you know what? Maybe we'll either get someone in who knows what they're doing, or we'll stop doing that. But no, they're happy just to go, right, okay,
I'll
let's
tell you a funny
keep ticking
story.
these boxes.
I'll
Go
tell
on.
you. I'll tell. No, not now. Off the record. After
Oh,
we finish,
okay.
I'll tell you a funny story. Um,
Yeah.
but from one challenge to another. So I totally hear what you're saying about that stuff. I've experienced it firsthand myself. Let's talk about AI.
Shock horror. AI.
Well,
The
I'm happy
the
not to talk
enemy.
about it. But well, is it? I don't know. Like, is it a thing? Is it a
I
problem?
think
Good
at the
thing? Bad
moment,
thing?
as a creative copywriter who leans heavily in kind of empathy, lived experience, kind of down to earth humanity, I think AI at the moment is lacking in all of the above. It's lacking in all of that. I
Mm,
think if you're the type of person who really does, again, this is just my opinion. I slam AI all the time. Again, I'm positioning against it, both as a freelancer, my new agency when I open it, we're positioning against AI. This will be all human written,
yeah.
relatable, kind of 100% lived experience copywriting here. No machines will be used. Although, who's to say that won't change in a few years? But yeah, the way I see it, anything that's kind of lacking in all of the stuff I said, humanity, empathy. The second you type a prompt in, to whatever Chat GPT um
The cool kids.
the chatbot in chief. The second you say, give me eight creative ideas to crack such and such brief, and then it starts churning out all of this stuff, just based on stuff that's happened in the past.
Yeah.
All it's doing is connecting a load of different dots in the background around stuff that's happened before.
Hmm.
Whereas I think the real skill and the real the really creatively smart stuff comes in joining dots that either A, haven't been joined before, so it's not stuff that's actually happened, and B, it really kind of answers the brief. It's not just coming up with the solution. It's coming up with an answer to the problem. And I think people are quick to go, okay, we need a 400-word blog post on such and such. It's like, okay, can we take a few steps back and say, is that really what we need? What's our strategy here? Like, for me, there's very little strategy getting kind of pumped into those prompts. It's all about output, and it's all about, we need this. Can you give me, an email that responds to such and such about, like responding to a complaint? It's like, okay, let's go back to the strategy. Like, why have they complained? Like, have we got a stance on whether we should be complaining, or are we just running straight to? And I think the danger when you start just rushing to outcomes is that you can very quickly lose a grip on the strategy stuff, your kind of your reason for doing stuff in the first place. So I think it's dangerous ground to rush into if you don't really know what you're doing. I know there's people out there. I know there's other writers using it to help them with ideas, and can you give me 8 ideas? I've relied for years on these old school techniques so that I don't really need any prompting. I've got the ability to kind of come up with madcap ideas. It's not to say I don't ever hit dead ends, but the last thing I'd ever think of would be to go to a machine and go, give me such and such ideas. Don't get me wrong. I use, thesaurus.com to come up with other words for things, and I'll type in, to Google, what's another, or, give me 10 other words for this, but the ideas and the kind of the creative approach that I'm taking, it's all directly linked to the brief and what their the client's objectives are. And it's not just kind of blindly going, okay, give me, spit out these ideas, which, okay, they might spark another idea further down the line, but even just having a rudimentary look at it over the last few months, it's just like spitting out the most generic stuff. And back to what I said about the humanity and personality, it's lacking in that. So I think from my point of view, I'd still be having to do all the hard work to put that humanity and the personality back into it. Like, it doesn't. You ask it to, especially my tone of voice. It's I mentioned one of my former sponsors of my Friday newsletter, Beth Joy. She's got a boss, like tone of the 9 immutable laws of tone of voice. I think that's what it's called anyway. And it's all about like how you can't just kind of make up a tone of voice. It has to be authentic, and you shouldn't be parroting your audience. It should be all about kind of yourself. And what was I getting onto there? I always do that. Lose my train of thought.
I do that. You're talking about AI and your tone of voice and replicating how you talk and what the client wants. And
so within my Friday email, I was kind of swearing, and some fella got in touch and was like, "Oh, you shouldn't be doing this." And I'm like, "Look, this is my authentic tone of voice. Like, this is just how I am. It's like, this is me, and this is how I'm going to use it." If you type in a swear word, or if you ask ChatGPT to swear, it says, "I won't use offensive language," and it goes all like, "Yeah, it won't do it." It's just like. So for me, doing my stuff, or for any brands that have that slightly sweary, slightly edgy, tone of voice, it's probably not going to spit that stuff out. There's a dead smart brand strategist called Tom Roach, and he uses it, and his team uses it to whenever they have a creative brief to solve. They do their own work, coming up with ideas, and then what they do, they give the same brief to ChatGPT, and if whatever ChatGPT spits out, they then go, okay, we can't use any of those ideas then, because if it's that generic that a robot could come up with it, they must be rubbish. So,
clever.
So yeah, I mean, again, it sounds like I'm being really pessimistic here and going, "Oh, there's no point to this," and I'll probably sounded like a dinosaur in kind of real terms. When who's to say in 20 years, all of these AI tools, it'll probably be just the way people work. Like now, when we use Google, or back to what I was saying before about the old school ways of doing journalism on a using the physical tools like a tape recorder on like my old phone, which
Yeah.
didn't have any internet on it. Learned all that stuff the old school way, and I still do them boxes to come up with the words.
Yeah.
Who's to say in 20 years' time when I'm like probably retired or easily be retired, hopefully be living somewhere in the sun. Um, that the kind of the standard, because these younger copywriters will have grown up like learning this stuff on the job, and no doubt the companies they're working for at the moment will be like, start using this, everyone else is using it,
Yeah.
it's AI plus human. It's like it's the future. Who's to say it's just going to be part of their processes, and the stuff that I do now might just be like, well, hang on, you're doing stuff on pen and paper. It's like that scene in Back to the Future, isn't it, when
Yeah.
he plays on the arcade machine. You got to use your hands. That's like a baby's toy. It's like exactly what it'll be like in the kind of years to come. So, for now, for the time being, I think it's a strategic advantage of ours to position ourselves as non AI for the types of brands and businesses that we'll want to be working with,
Yeah.
particularly because we'll be providing that kind of weird, unexpected, silly, yet relatable stuff that I in any testing that I've done, and I haven't done much because it's just like, okay, it's not spitting back anything that I would ever use.
Mm.
It just hasn't been able to produce that stuff. Who knows? In a few years, I could probably upload 5 of my previous emails, and it will probably spit back, something that is there or thereabouts my tone of voice, but they'll never get
That,
there.
that's the
And one
that's
of
the
my
key
mates,
word, right there or thereabouts.
yeah, and you're still having to do the work as well. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, it'll get you past the blank page, it'll get you a little bit of the way there, but it's like, and where's the fun? Like, we get into especially copywriters.
Mm.
It's like when someone comes up with a really good line. My one of my mates, Nick Parker, he made this point in one of his emails. He's like, there's something inherently human about us when somebody comes up with like a really nice strapline or something for you to go, oh, fair play, like that was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Whereas when a robot is coming up with it, it's like it's just it lacks all of that. So I think when the humanity is sucked out of it as well, it just makes everything less fun, and that's not what I'm about. So yeah, I'm kind of or definitely against it at the moment.
Okay.
But yeah, practically, I think it'll probably just become part of what we all do.
Okay. Let's move on then. I don't want to stress you out about AI anymore.
You just see me like Steve, like, these robots. I quite like just putting like at the end within my emails whenever I make a. This is my newsletter, by the way. Whenever
Which
I
I highly recommend. I will link to that in the show notes as well. It's a good read. It's
oh, nice one.
one of the I shared something about this the other day actually. There's only a handful of newsletters that I read religiously,
Hmm.
whereas I'm waiting for it to come in. And Friday's quite rich actually. Yours and 2 others in the morning. Um,
Yeah, I get a few on a Friday as well. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Maybe I'll have to think about changing it to another date and time. No, Friday's sound. That suits me.
it's good. It gets you. It's good for the weekend, right? People then go out and then tell people about it.
Yeah, that
I
was
think,
yeah, that was the idea for it. Yeah,
yeah,
just throw it out around lunchtime, and everyone's kind of already thinking about their first pint,
yeah,
aren't they, at the weekend, or where they going camping with the kids or whatever. So
yeah.
everyone's in chill out mode. So me throwing a few little choice little mad phrases at them, I think is gonna be better received than on a wet Tuesday morning,
Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree.
for instance. But yeah, within that email, whatever writing tip or story or whatever example I've given about how to make your writing way more engaging, I'll then say, oh, by the way, and finally, I also gave this same brief to one of the chatbots, and then I publish what the answer was, and it's always horrible. Always horrible.
Yeah.
So that's my final little nail in the coffin, just to keep having a little dig at the robots.
Okay. Tell me something you struggle with or find tough in the world of writing. That is.
Oh wow. Well, I purely focus nowadays on the shorter form stuff,
Right.
which is more like conceptual, the big idea, headlines, really kind of snappy, 3 or 4 word slogans. The longer stuff, I used to do it quite a bit, like blog
Articles, that
posts and
sort of
case
stuff.
studies and stuff,
Yeah.
but just I don't really like. That's why I love writing little short stories. The stuff I do with the scammers is just like the now and again you get it quite long, some of the slides, but it's just a little mad short story in and out. I think I've got quite a short attention span. I love sketch comedy, just dead quick in and out punchlines. Like, oh yeah, that's funny. That's my style. So
Yeah.
I think, it's kind of translated over to the way I work as well. So anything longer form, not that I, not that I struggle with it really. I can do it. It's
Don't
just
enjoy
like,
it.
I don't enjoy it at all. I mean, don't get me wrong. Now and again, I could be in the middle of a job coming up with like a campaign, and the idea is just not coming. So sometimes the idea takes a while to kind of fall into play, and that's why like building time in between. I very rarely like do day rate stuff with an agency. Oh, can you come and work for us for a day, and we'll have this idea polished off by five? And I'm like, ain't gonna work. Like, give me the brief on a Monday. I'll take it away. I'll have a think about it. I'll come back on the Wednesday. We'll have a chat about it. I'll ask any questions. Give me the weekend to think it over. I'll probably start coming up with our first ideas in my phone notes. The following Wednesday, something will probably start forming, and then I'll present it on the Friday. The first kind of loose ideas. So for me, that's a much better kind of way of working than
Yeah.
coming up with stuff on the fly. So, and even then, if I've given myself 2 weeks, I'm kind of confident enough that I'll have at least I'll be there probably 80% of the way there, cracking the brief. Occasionally it'll get to week 2, and I'm still like, these are sounding a bit shit. And I'm like, what am I going to do? And I'm like, thinking, I could just, sack all of this off and rent, sun lounges out on the beach in Spain or whatever. I'm
Yeah.
sure that's a lot easier. And I'm sure loads of creatives have thought that. Like, wouldn't it be just easier? Like being an HGV driver, like just having a destination to go to. 9 hours, just me in the road.
Stick a
Like, I'd love that.
podcast on.
Yeah, well, my dad was a van driver, so I'd be keeping the family tradition going. He's retired now, but yeah. So yeah, there's times where it's like, like this is hard, and getting started sometimes is hard, but everyone finds that, I think, the
Hmm.
procrastination, rather than just like getting straight into it, digesting the brief, coming up with first ideas, doing them boxes, getting my words down, bang. Like once I'm into it, the ideas come at all times. Usually 3 a.m. when I get up for me be middle of the night wee, and I'm like that in the toilet. Yeah, you gotta do that. Gotta get that idea down. Funny. It's mad where ideas come from, but yeah, I know loads of creatives will say the same.
Yeah, yeah. On that note, if you get businesses coming to you because they want to make their brand a little bit more fun or a little bit more engaging, are there any ultra boring businesses that you've worked with that have asked you that, and you've had to come up with something to make them more less boring?
Yeah, most of them, to be honest,
Oh, okay.
they're normally quite not maybe not boring, but they've just done things the traditional way, quite safe,
Yeah.
and it's always been just we provide this, we do that. It's always been about us and our business and this and our business that. So it tends to be quite. They tend to be quite insular.
Okay.
It's rare that, I mean, now and again I'll work with a big household brand, so they know what to do, and they're just coming to me for some ideas. But most of the ones who come to me to help them specifically with humorous stuff are usually coming from a place of kind of mediocrity, quite safe, just been doing stuff the same for years. Okay, they've probably got a nice little brand and built up an audience of kind of loyal customers over the years. But yeah, when they come to me, and it's a case of like, I worked a couple of years ago, still working with them occasionally, actually. It was a software company, and like most software companies quite techy, aren't they? The
Mm,
language they use, you see the way they talk about gigabytes and all of this, and it's just like, I think most of them are quite confident that the people buying from them will be au fait with all of this terminology, and they'll understand features, and if you throw acronyms at them, it'll be sound. But
yeah.
marketing doesn't really work that way. You've still got to be creative, and you've still got to get your stuff noticed
Yeah.
and make it simple enough for the penny to drop. So it was quite refreshing actually when a software company that had always done that type of stuff. I was looking at their previous stuff and it was just like really dry, 4 likes on LinkedIn when they should really be doing loads better, or some of the ads that they were putting out were getting like one response, if any,
Mm,
just a pure waste of money. And they just had a really, really kind of switched on marketing director who said, right, we need to speak more to our target audience. Most software companies speak to the techies, but like this particular software company, the audience that they had, they weren't techie at all. They were just like blokes,
right.
and the software that these blokes were using, it was a software, but the way they were trying to sell it was just like they were speaking to IT managers, and the IT managers like weren't asked. These were like hairy ass fellas who are going to be using this tool like on the streets and doing their job. So they needed to speak to those type of people. So yeah, we went back to like the game. It gave me or I asked a load of questions at the start. So who is the audience? And they were like, oh, it's this, and okay, what type of stuff did they read? And it's like they share like daft memes. They don't read like
Yeah,
highbrow
yeah,
stuff. They're just everyday blokes. So I was like, just speak to them like everyday blokes. So it was the first, for even though I'd worked on it, it was the first time I'd really felt like a software company had kind of crossed that divide between just being completely techie
yeah,
and just going, you know what, we speak your I know it's a bit of a cliche, we speak your language, everyone says that, but like the saying we speak your language, and then everything you put out is just in real simple layman's terms, which the audience gets straight away.
yeah.
So that's one example where
Okay.
they've really gone from traditionally safe and all about ourselves to embracing like we've got to speak our audience's language here and get or put stuff out that is gonna make them notice it. And the response for them, they've had like loads of big companies that previously were kind of on their radar. I've been going, oh, love your stuff,
Yeah,
like really speaks to us, like we can tell that you get us straight away. And that's, for me, that's job done. If people think that the brands that I'm writing for, if people go, oh yeah, you understand us, it's like sound
happy
perfect.
days. Okay, tell me, if there was a writer you could shadow for the day, who would it be and why?
I think I maybe mentioned it before, but this, good mate of mine, like just amazing copywriter called Eddie Schleiner. He's based in Chicago. He
Yeah, I think
runs,
I've signed up to his newsletter as well, actually.
he runs very good copy. And I think just the way he tells like loads of really kind of impactful stories about it. It's all about like the power of copywriting and um, just the way he tells stories. He'll focus in on the little nuances of like emotion and little glances that people might have, which have like hidden meaning. Which because most of my stuff and my stories that I write is kind of aiming to make people laugh and smile. I can
Mm,
tend to overlook the more thoughtful stuff and the stuff that really kind of grabs you there.
yeah,
He did, funnily enough, a chat GPT comparison he was talking about. I mean, Eddie's dead open about it. He's like, look, I'm not against AI, so I welcome these tools. They're here to help us. So he looks at it a bit more kind of, a bit less closed off than I do, or a lot less closed off than I do. But in one of his earlier examples, when just not long after the chatbots had first come out, he just typed in, give me 80 words on what it's like to be there at the birth of your son, on ChatGPT, like spat whatever it could out, and it was just as expected, horrible, robotic,
yeah,
emotionless stuff, trying to kind of fake the idea of being, witnessing the miracle birth of
mm,
your firstborn son. And then Eddie wrote his version in 80 words, and it was like I had tears in my eyes by the end of it,
oh
and I was
wow,
like, that for me, there's the difference straight there. You got one which kind of fakes um, human experience,
yeah,
and one which you go, he was there, like you were. I was with him in the room, and it was just like amazing. So just to be able to, just to be able to shadow him and get into his kind of process and stuff. Which I mean, he shares loads about everything to do with copywriting. So there'll be stuff on his web. Honestly, I recommend everyone go subscribe to Very Good Copy, the newsletter. He's got courses and all sorts of stuff. It'll make you 1,000 times better writer.
Okay.
But yeah, his stuff. He's the one that I'd go. Yeah, let's see how to do more of that. Not that it would be like. I don't think it would benefit me in terms of but it would benefit me in terms of adding those more emotive points, which I think I miss. I think our styles are completely different, but
Yeah.
I think we still approach things kind of the same way. But the way he hones in and zooms in on the tiny little nuances that make us human, he's just like an artist at that.
Fair enough. I'm sure you get asked this next question quite regularly, but if someone came up to you and said they wanted to be a writer, what would you tell them?
Okay, I think I've mentioned this before, but I took a while to find my voice, my own writing voice, and it was only really when it started freelancing, so I hadn't really needed to before. But yeah, I'd say for any writers looking, or anyone's looking to get kind of started in writing, just try and write as much of your own stuff as you can early on, and not just be bogged down in client work where you're kind of writing in all different tones, which is easy to do once you need to start earning money and stuff, and
Mm.
you need to kind of build your portfolio. It's all about like writing for those different brands. But if you ever really want to get serious about marketing your own stuff or get into writing other stuff, books or screenplays or anything like that. I think understanding your own voice and knowing your own voice and doing what I've done, which is kind of let it be like one of your standout things, which gets you recognised. Yeah, I'd say try and do that, which is it's hard. It took a pandemic for me to go, right, okay, I'm really going to lean into the funny. It was like a conscious decision
Mm.
at a time when the whole world was just crying and morbid, and CEOs everywhere that I hadn't dealt with for 10 years were sending me emails saying, we really care about you. So I was just like doing parodies of them, and I was kind of making light of as much as I could
I think the
of
world
the
needed it
entire.
though, didn't they? Didn't it?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. I needed it anyway, so.
Yeah.
And I was at the time, I'm in a co-working space here. Last thing I want to do is be writing stuff in the box room. So I was proper doom and gloom as well. I was like, anything just to keep me day fun. So I was just leaning more into the funny stuff, and it really really helped. Not only like kind of position me as one of the go to people for that type of funny stuff, but
Yeah.
get me work as well. Like it's mad. Like everyone's on furlough and stuff. I had my most successful year. Just like those 4 months, it was just like clients everywhere. Oh yeah, we need to ramp up our marketing. Can you help us with that? I was like, I was chocker. Never stopped.
Silver linings, eh?
Yeah. Oh man. Any silver linings, I'll take. Yeah. It was a shit time, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Just to know, it's weird just looking back on it now. I just think how bonkers the whole thing was. Totally mad.
That's nuts, yeah. Me and my wife are the same. We go, what? Remember that? Like there was something I screen grabbed I'd posted it on Twitter, and it cropped up on my timeline, and it was a Sky News article, and it was an article about what you can and can't do at public gatherings like
Mm.
weddings. And one
Yeah.
of the paragraphs that I'd highlighted is, you'll be allowed to have a dance floor, and while dancing won't be illegal. And I was like, I was like, look at that sentence. Dancing won't be illegal. Like, what alternative reality are we in here? And it was just like, what a time. News articles having to say whether dancing is illegal or not. I was just like mind blowing. So, yeah, like I know we've all lived through it, and well, obviously there was really the horrors for hundreds of thousands of people who didn't. But for those who've kind of who look back and remember what a really weird
Bonkers, mate.
or harrowing time it was.
Yeah.
I don't think the reality of it will ever set in. Like it was September the 11th, wasn't it, the other day?
Yeah.
Um, and it was like the 22nd anniversary of that, is it? And I remember, like as most of us do, watching all of the horrors unfold on the telly, and it's just like when you take a step back and go, I'll never kind of the gravitas of that situation and the horrors of it.
Mm,
I'll never be able to fully kind of digest it. And I think it's the same with the pandemic. If you think about it too much, you'll just go nuts. It's
yeah.
just mad, isn't it? Yeah. So
Okay.
anyway,
We'll move on to the last question then. Dave, if we
okay.
speak again in 12 months and you say to me, do you know what? It's been a really successful year. What would have happened?
Yeah, well, I've mentioned it a couple of times now, so I'm starting my own copywriting agency, or I keep saying my own, so I'm dead selfish. me and one of my mates, Ben McKinney, who's a boss copywriter and really sound, and we get on dead well, which is why I'm going into business with him. Yet we're teaming up to open a copywriting agency called Copy or Die. So, as you can imagine by the name, we will be leaning into the whole premise that, brands and businesses with shit copy are as good as doomed. So you really need that witty, relatable, weird, funny type of copy
Yeah,
to stand out. And yeah, brands with that type of stuff, have got the potential to live forever. Otherwise, you get forgotten really fast. So yeah, I think in 12 months' time, if that's off the ground, well, I mean, I'm hoping it's off the ground. We're launching in a couple of weeks, but
Well, what
if
was
we've
what
got,
was the thought process for starting that as opposed to just carrying on with the freelance stuff?
yeah, I've been freelancing now for like 7 years. I'm just at the point where I'm only really I've got the ability to take on probably one in every 20 jobs that get offered to me, just because it's
Okay.
purely me and because the way I speak in most of my own marketing and stuff, it tends to be clients like, oh, we definitely want you to write our stuff. So it's
Mm,
me having to do every single bit from the start to the finish of the project. Whereas I'm at the point now where just my little boy who's 2 last month. I want to get to the point where I'm earning a little bit of dough while I'm feeding him breakfast. I don't want everything I ever do to be dependent on me sitting in a chair writing,
yeah.
silly words all day. So it's kind of a two-pronged thing. One, I'm having to turn down loads of really cool projects, which does my head in. I'd
Yeah.
love to get to work on more. And two, just I think being able to earn a little bit more coin while not being chained to me PC is definitely an added bonus. So so me and Ben will be we're building up our network of sector and media specialist copywriters as we speak.
Okay.
So we'll have experienced writers who know their stuff. Most of them will have been doing it for years, so that when an IT company comes in and you need really niche speciality stuff, we've got someone who can hit the ground running, and we're not having to just like I think a lot of agencies out there, they'll have either creatives fresh from uni or bright-eyed bushy-tailed freelancers who are like, oh, I'm struggling, I need to get a job.
Yeah.
um I think we'll be coming at it slightly different. We'll be looking to work with more experienced people who
Okay.
really know their stuff, and I think by doing that, I think one the clients will have less of a like, oh Dave, we just want you to work on our stuff, whereas I'll be able to say I'll still be overseeing it. I'll probably be coming up with the concepts and stuff, but I'll be working closely with really good writers. We won't just be palming this off to people on Upwork to
Yeah.
do the stuff. It'll
Can,
be
can you can you
you'll be getting
train
good.
people to write in your style?
Easy, easy. Like good. I think good writers you can. I think it would be hard. Like I don't think I could just get someone maybe who's been doing it a couple of years or fresh from uni and say, just there's a load of my previous stuff, like writing this style. Not that that's what the clients want. The clients don't
Mm,
want. It's not the Dave Harland show. It's going to follow a lot of the approaches that I take in terms of humor and relatability and weirdness and wittiness and all of that type of stuff. But it's
yeah.
still going to be in their own tone of voice or whatever tone is going to get them noticed in the market. But yeah, I think it could. I could. Yeah, it's back to like me, like being quite impatient, and I get a nosebleed if I write anything over 400 words. I probably could have had all of these fancy systems in
Yeah.
place years ago, and I probably could have opened an agency 5 years ago if I'd have been smart about it. But again, stuff like this takes time. I'm not a marketer. I'm a writer. So the kind of, the making money side of things and the getting really shrewd with marketing systems and all of that. It's like it's taken time to fall into place. And Ben, who's going to me co-founder, he's really hot on like processes and stuff, and
Okay.
he's well more there with all of that type of stuff. So I think naturally he'll be more like kind of processes, operations, but still a dead good writer. And me, I'll be doing a little bit more of the creative stuff and the ideation. I think that's
Nice.
probably how we'll go. But yeah, it's gonna be a fun one. And if all else fails, or if I say something that gets me cancelled, nothing's lost. Ben's still doing copywriting. He's also got a window cleaning business, which is just I love. It's like I love that he's like a grafter as well. Which kind of it speaks to my kind of roots and my my family's background, all about good hard graft and stuff.
Yeah.
In fact, a lot of them look at I'll just get paid for writing stories all day. Like how on earth does this boy get by just by doing silly stuff? But yeah, somehow I've winged it. Um, so
So
so yeah,
when's it going live?
it's going to go live. The website we just did the hardest bit, the writing of the copy state. If only we had two copywriters who've been doing it for
Yeah.
years. So yeah, it's almost there design wise. All the branding sorted. It's just a case of writing the copy. So probably what are we in now? Probably the start of October, I think, realistically.
Okay.
But I've sneakily already got like a wait list of clients, which I put a shout out on my newsletter, which is my copywriting newsletter a few weeks back, saying if you've ever wanted my brand on your brain, now's your chance because I'm opening an agency and we got like 300 odd people on a wait list. So
Oh,
hopefully,
wowzers.
yeah. But we were like, I'd have been happy with five. It's like,
Well,
oh
what did
shit,
you
300.
expect when you hit publish? What did you think you were going to get back?
Oh, I thought like maybe 20 at a push because I'm
Yeah.
like again not a marketer. I've got a sponsors slot at the top of it, which I've only really added that in the last year because Eddie and a few other people with newsletters with a decent amount of subscribers, they kind of had it to monetize it, and I was paying like 250 quid a month MailChimp fees, and I was like, oh, I need to start covering that. Like it's costing me money this free newsletter. So I'd kind of just fell into how am I going to monetize this? So
By the way, Dave, I think there's a lot cheaper ways to be putting out a newsletter than that sort of money for Mailchimp every month.
yeah, there probably is. I've switched over. Actually, I'm on MailerLite now, but again, it's back to me. Like I paid someone who knows. Like I know that she's like a Mailchimp expert, Catherine,
Mm,
and I was just like, "Oh, can you do this for me?" She's like, "Yeah, sorted." And I don't really like getting bogged down into the technical stuff too much. So I know there's people doing Substack and monetizing the stuff like that way, but even like but buy me a coffee and you get this for free. It's just like it just doesn't feel me like asking people to buy me a coffee for sharing a few tips. I'd sooner just give the stuff away for free and have a sponsor,
yeah.
which is what the marketing meeting do. That they have a sponsor, and all of their talks are free. So, um, but yeah, mad tangent. So yeah, I'd have been made up with like probably I'd have been gutted if there was like less than 20 because I'd have gone, oh shit, this marketing it's not really working
Yeah.
for me. But to have 300 on there and like some big names, some big brand names like marketing directors, big like
That's incredible,
household
man. That it
brands, I'm
really
just
is
like,
good.
I was like, oh. Obviously we've got the job of converting them now to becoming clients, and no doubt there'll be, you know, half of them will probably go, "What? It's not you writing every single word. See you later." But I
Yeah.
mean, I tried to be upfront about it. I've tried to explain. Look, I'll be more of a kind of copy director, creative copy director, still coming up with the ideas, but I just won't be writing every single kind of word and dot on every I. So
Mm,
we'll see how it goes. And like I said, if it all goes tits up, I've got me freelancing to fall back on, and Ben's got his freelancing and his window cleaning to do. So I think we're both happily just kind of revert back to what we were doing, and we'll try something else. But we're hoping that it could be something really nice, and we're going to be working with some really kind of big names, really nice clients who want to do things the right way.
yeah.
So yeah, looking forward to it.
Mate, I have got no doubt in my mind that it will be a success. I think in 12 months' time, I'm going to email you and find out what's going on, but I think it's going to be good. Um, I am conscious of your time, so we'll wrap it up there. I want to thank you for coming on. Like I said to you at the beginning, it's something you were one of the names on my list that I wanted from the outset. So it was great to chat to you. Where can I direct people who want to come and say hi? Just LinkedIn, or I mean, I will link. I suppose. Let me know when your website's live for your agency, and I'll change the link in that to that as well. But is it LinkedIn primarily?
Yeah, mainly LinkedIn. Yeah, I'm on there most days. At Wordman Copy on Twitter.
Okay.
But that's few
I'll,
and
I'll,
far
I'll link
between
to
now.
everything. I'll link to Twitter, LinkedIn. I'll link to your newsletter.
Yeah.
All that
You
stuff
can
in
get
the
me
show
newsletter
notes.
at my website as well. My website's thewordman.co.uk. But if you're putting links up, yeah, you can get links to most of the stuff on my website, thewordman.co.uk. And obviously when the agency's launched, that'll be copyorDie.co.uk. So yeah,
Okay.
getting
I
on.
will I
But,
will link to everything. Dave,
nice one.
thank you so much for your time today, mate. It's been a real pleasure chatting to you.
Yeah, cheers, Chris. No, pleasure's all mine. Yeah, I've enjoyed it. Nice one.